Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you my August stats wrap up. August was a pretty exciting month in terms of reading goals. I finished 19 books. I am slightly in shock that I got through that many books. I mean, a lot of them I'd already started. So some of them were on my TBR to read in August that I started and finished in August. But actually, the majority of them were on my currently reading shelf already. And I had this ongoing thing where my currently reading shelf was averaging between 12 and 14 books. And I was just determined that I was going to finish the month with less than that. I was aiming to try and clear it completely by the end of August, but then there was one book that I knew I probably wouldn't finish, which I didn't. But I finished everything else that I planned to read that was on my TBR, apart from one book. I finished all the books that I needed to for my Cluedo challenge. I finished a couple of others as well that I said I was going to read in my TBR video, and I also cleared my currently reading shelf. So currently there is only one book on that shelf, which again is unheard of for me. Like, I never usually finish this many books in a month, and I don't think my currently reading shelf has ever been at just one book. So that's really exciting. I am planning to start a few today, so it won't stay at one book for very long, but it is nice. And I'm going to try and keep it lower. I'm going to try and keep it around the 5 or 6 books mark, because I like to have a couple of fiction and a couple of non-fiction on the go at the same time. I'm going to aim to keep it a bit lower. Once I start my course, I will also have books I'm reading for study going on there, so I don't want it to get too crowded, but I'm really happy with that. I finished 19 books in the month of August. I still can't quite get my head around that. At the start of the month, there were 591 books on my want to read shelf on Goodreads. This is now down to 586, so that's good as well. It is going in the right direction. That is a little bit through reading, but also a little bit through unhauling. I have unhauled a couple of books that I decided I probably am not going to read. I'm doing my final part of my pre-move unhaul video for you today as well. I'm not sure how many parts of that you'll have seen so far when this goes up. Anywho, so that's good. That is going in the right direction. I'm pretty happy with that. And also to have my currently reading, which I think was on 12 at the start of the month, and it's now down to 1. I'm really happy with that too. The total number of pages in the books that I completed was 5,724. That is a lot, and actually the majority of them I did read in the month, because the books that I'd already started, like, I think maybe 2 of them I'd nearly finished, but most of them I was only just like a little bit into. That is good, and that gave me an average book length of 301 pages. The longest book that I finished was The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the second book in the Davabad trilogy. So this was 619 pages. The shortest book that I read was called The Locked Room Mystery by Jasper Fforde. He has a new book coming out, and he's an author that I really love, but I really love 2 of his series, and they are actually the only books of his that I've read. I need to read some of his other books. So when I heard he had a new book coming out, I was really excited and thought it might be a continuation of either the Thursday Next series or the Nursery Crime series, but it wasn't either of those things, which is very disappointing. So I was just looking on Goodreads to check that I had read all of both of those series, and found that there was a short story available in the Nursery Crime series called The Locked Room Mystery, and it was actually only about a page long. It was available on his website, or it was linked to from his website, I can't remember. Anyway, so I read that, and that was about a page. So that was the shortest book that I read. Also the book that took me the least time to read. We'll get onto that in a minute. So in terms of my earnings for August, I finished 19 books, and 2 of them were over 500 pages. So I earned £21 for my reading to spend on books in the future. I did have one book arrive that I pre-ordered, which was Raybearer by Jordan Ifuko. I'm really sorry if I've said that wrong. This I had on pre-order, really excited to read this. So this is, I believe, Nigerian-inspired fantasy series, and I am very excited to pick this up. So that book cost me £6.55. At the end of July I had £2.26 left on my account, so taking off that what I've spent but adding on the £21 that I've earned leaves me with £16.71 to spend on books in September. Now my birthday is at the end of September, so I'm not meant to buy books until after that because my family often do buy me books, but I have been given permission to buy both our book club book for September, which is Jade City by Fforde, and also the Voltathon book for the next round of Voltathon, which is Saving Lucas Biggs, because that book is not on my wish list. I can buy that one. Thankfully, because Voltathon is the week before my birthday, so it would be a bit annoying otherwise. So I'm going to be buying that one, and that will come out of my accounts, but I've got enough to spend on that. And then at the end of the month, I will pick a couple of books to buy, probably at the beginning of August when I see how much I am for September. I just left my job because I'm moving to start a new uni course, and they gave me £20 worth of book tokens to spend as well. So I'm going to be buying quite a lot of books at the end of September, and I'll probably do like a little birthday book haul at the beginning of October for you, so you can see all the books I've acquired. Right, so back to the stats. In terms of date, the oldest book that I read was Emma by Jane Austen, which was the Classics Book Club pick for July. I was reading it as an audiobook and I only finished it off in August. It was a reread and it's my favourite Jane Austen book, so it was really lovely to listen to the audiobook for that. And then the newest book that I finished was Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia, which is a new release. This came out this year. I gave 4 books 3 stars, 10 books 4 stars, and 5 books 5 stars. So pretty solid reading month really. I'm quite happy with that. That means it was less than a quarter of the books that I read that were meh, and then the rest I really enjoyed. The book that took me the longest to read was Grace by Randy Alcorn. That is because this is a daily devotional book, so it just has a page to read a day. So I started reading that back in October of last year. It took me slightly longer because I forgot to read it every day. So that was the one that took me the longest. And the book that took me the shortest, as I mentioned, was the Locked Room Mystery because it was a page, so it took me about 5 minutes. The book that had been on my TBR for the longest, we had a late entrant to this. I thought it was going to be one book the entire month, and then it turned out to be a different book right at the end because I just finished Magic Kingdom for Sale by Terry Brooks. So this was my oldest from my TBR pick from my Cluedo pick. I did not enjoy this book very much. Well, it was alright, it was a bit bleh. So I didn't know if I was actually going to get through this, but I did. I made it to the end. So this had been on my Goodreads TBR for, are you ready for this? 2,181 days. So it was one of the oldest books on my TBR. Really glad to have got it off my TBR. I also did actually finish another of the oldest books on my TBR, which was My Life as a Traitor. So that had been on there nearly as long. That had been on there for 2,122 days. It wasn't quite as long because I started reading it sooner. And then this month, once again, there were quite a few books that I started on the day I got them. Really, they were ebooks, and a few of them I got from the library, so there were quite a few of them. I'm not going to go through them all. In terms of whether they were on my TBR or not, 7 of the books were on my August TBR that I published at the start of August. They were the 5 books my Cluedo pick and 2 others that I'd mentioned in that video, and then the other 12 were not on my TBR, but the majority of them were ones that I was currently reading at the start of the month, I believe, so that was really, really good. So where the books came from, 1 book was a reread, 4 books were new this year, 7 came from the library, 7 were from my owned TBR, so that's pretty good. It's good to be increasing that number from my own TBR as well, because I've not been very good at reading those this year. I read 1 audiobook, I read 4 ebooks, 6 hardbacks, and the rest were paperbacks, so I think that's 8 paperbacks. In terms of genre, I read quite a mix of genres. I read non-fiction memoirs, I read a couple of Christian non-fiction, I read 4 memoirs actually, which is quite a lot for 1 month. A couple of short story anthologies, a few fantasy and a sci-fi, and a contemporary as well. All of the books were for an adult audience, so no YA or middle grade books this month. I read a mix of author nationalities. I mean, they were mainly British and American, but I did also read books from a South African author, an Iranian author, a Dutch author, and a Mexican-Canadian author. So that mixed it up a little bit, and there was 1 book as well which was multiple authors. That was one of the short story collections, which I think was mainly a mix of French and French-Canadian authors. In terms of ethnicities, I read a mixture again. They were mainly white British or white American, slightly over half were white British or white American, and then 7 of them were authors of colour. And then in terms of gender identities, it was about half and half of cisgendered men and cisgendered women, so need to be working on trying to read more books from transgender authors still and non-binary authors, and that is something that I'm going to be trying to do a bit more. That's going to be one of my goals for next year, I think, because this year I do still need to carry on working through books I already own. When I have opportunities to buy books, I'm going to be trying to prioritise buying authors of colour and authors of marginalised gender identities. Okay, for my challenges, I did pretty well on this as well, actually. I'm really pleased with this. 6 books counted towards the indie challenge, and at the end of the month I only have 2 squares left to tick off for the indie challenge, which is really exciting. 7 books counted towards my Start on Your Shelf-a-thon challenge, which again is really positive. So that is clearing books from my own TBR, books that I bought before the end of last year. 2 books were from the oldest on my TBR list as well, which is really good. And 2 books counted for Read Around the World, so 1 for South Africa and 1 for Iran. And I did also complete a series as well, which was really exciting. So I managed to hit all of my challenges at least once in the month, so that was really positive. I didn't do so well with author diversity this month, unfortunately. I did, as I mentioned, read 7 books from authors of colour. I did also read 2 books where the author has talked about having mental illness in the past. As for the other categories, so LGBTQIA+, or authors with a disability or neurodivergence, from what I could find out about the authors, I didn't hit any of those markers, but that's okay. So long as I'm hitting at least some of those targets every month, I'm happy with that. I do want to try and increase those other diversity categories, but actually there's only so much you can do at once. Unless I find someone that hits every category, I'm probably not going to hit everyone every month, but that's okay. And then in terms of character diversity, I did actually hit all of those markers at least once, so that's really positive. At least the characters are diverse, even if the authors are not as diverse as I would like them to be. So that is all the stats. I'm now going to talk about my favourite and least favourite books of the month. So let's get the least favourite out of the way first. I gave 4 books 3 stars, so it's not like I hated those books, they were all right. I was maybe slightly generous in this one, so the book I've picked for my least favourite book of the month is Short Stories in French. This is a parallel text book, so it has the French text on one side and the English on the other. This took me a really long time to get through because I wasn't enjoying most of the stories in this. I think there were about 2, maybe 3, no 2, because there was one that I thought sounded really promising, and then it was just weird. There were 12 stories in here and I only liked 2 of them. That was not a great ratio. My favourite one was one called Objet d'Art, which is about a woman who buys a really expensive piece of artwork, and it's like about her thought process when she's trying to decide should she sell like loads of her stuff to just buy this one piece of art that she really loves. So I really liked that story, but yeah, most of the others I did not enjoy, and that's why it took me so long to get through. It helped to have the English translation because my French is a little bit rustier than maybe I thought it was, but I was trying not to use that too much. I was trying just to read the French, but yeah, I just didn't really enjoy these. So I'm going to be unhauling this and hopefully someone else will get some use out of it, and I'm going to be trying to read some more French books and hopefully I will enjoy them a bit more. Then my favourite book, gave quite a few books 5 stars. It's going to be fairly close between a couple of them, but I think just slightly more edges out. So I mean, it was really close between Mexican Gothic and Kingdom of Copper for my favourite book, but I think I'm going to go with Kingdom of Copper just to carry on the trend, because City of Brass was my favourite book the previous month. Just really love this series. Like, the last 200 pages of this book were a complete emotional roller coaster. I just couldn't stop reading, I couldn't put it down. I just had to keep going, and I was so drained at the end of it that, I mean, I really want to carry on the series. I'm glad to have a slight enforced break in that I can't buy the 3rd book until after my birthday because it's on my Amazon wishlist, and it's the sort of thing some of my friends or family might buy for me. It will probably be October before I carry on and finish off this series, but I just, this book, my heart. I'm not going to go into particularly any detail about what happens in this book because it is a sequel. The first book follows Nari, who is an orphan girl that's grown up in the streets of Cairo, and one day she accidentally summons a djinn and finds out that her past is not what she thought it was. She has these strange abilities, and so she starts to learn more about that, and she gets taken to the city of Davabad, which is where the djinn or devas live, and learns more about her past and her heritage and gets sucked into all the court politics there. This book is set 5 years after the events at the end of the first book and develops on the themes, the court intrigue, all the politics and stuff. There's so much happens in this book, and left on a bit of a cliffhanger as well. I just don't know if I'm emotionally ready to carry on the series, but I really, really love the series, so I'm really grateful to my friends from Space Orange Book Club who encouraged me to pick this up, and I've been buddy reading it with a few of them, and we've been like talking about it in our group chat. And actually some of us were buddy reading Foundryside as well in a separate group chat, and ended up talking about Kingdom of Copper in that group chat too, because it's just so all-encompassing. Really, really love this series. I love S.A. Chakraborty's writing, and I am so excited to finish the series off, but probably will wait until October to read the next book so that my heart has time to recover before I go in, because I've heard that final book is just all emotion all the way through. I just really love this book. And I'm a bit sad, I got this from the library, and I will be a bit sad that I don't have my own copy, but I will probably buy it at some point so I can reread the series, because it's definitely a series I'm going to want to reread. I'm saying that, not knowing how the series turns out. But never mind. That is my stats wrap up for August. Let me know, what was your favourite thing you read in August? How many books did you read? I don't know how I managed to read 19 books. That is just a bit scary to me. Basically, I didn't do anything else, I think. Like, I just spent all my free time reading, I guess. And packing. Reading and packing is my life right now. Yeah, so let me know some of what you've been reading. Let me know if you read any of the books I've talked about today and what you thought of them. Please also like this video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also follow me on my social media. All that information will be listed in the description box below for you. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!